Did you open your admissions results and learn that you were waitlisted at one of your top choice colleges? Do you want to know what that means? Would you like to know what you can do to get off the waitlist and into the college? If so, I've got what you need. This is College Mentor Chris. I am a journalist and author turned college essay consultant who specializes in showing students how to write the kind of essays that can increase their odds of admission to elite universities. After working one-on-one with more than 300 students, I'm now offering online essay workshops. If that might be of interest, check out my website, collegeessaymentor.com. For reliable information about college waitlists, I'm going to be talking to Deb Felix, a former admissions dean at Columbia University, who now works as a private college consultant. If you find the interview helpful and want to be notified when I roll out more videos, be sure to subscribe to College Mentor Chris. Thank you for meeting with me to talk about waitlists. So I could introduce you, but you can probably do it a lot better.
So I, worked in admissions at Columbia University. I went on from there to do admissions consulting for Georgetown, the University of Maryland, the University of Minnesota, Sciences Po, which is a school in Paris.
Lots of people get their admissions decisions, some of which are good, some of which are bad. And then there's this sort of middle ground purgatory called the waitlist. So maybe a good starting point would be to help us understand how the admissions process works.
Right. How do people even get on the wait list to begin with, right?
Sure.
So when an admissions committee is making its decisions, they obviously pull out the students that they rank at the top. We used to at Columbia have ones, twos, and threes. The ones or the 1+ get in. The twos might be waitlisted, and the threes usually got rejected. So first they admit a group of students they want to have, the ones, and they try to predict how many of those students will accept their offer of admission. And usually they're getting admissions from lots of different great universities and colleges, and they may go elsewhere, right? Mm-hmm. So the wait list is really the admissions committee's way of saying, we're not really very good at this. We never really can predict quite accurately or perfectly who will accept our offers of admission. And they're trying to put together a particular type of class. So when they admit, they would then wait to hear back from all of those students they've admitted. And once they have commitments from a group of students, they run the statistics and see what they've got.
Okay.
So, okay, this is what our class looks like at the moment. Oh, we have 493 students. We need 500. Oh, how many women do we have? How many men? How many from each state? How many from each country? And then what are our priorities? What type of class do we want to have? And what do we lack right now? We get the commitments back and you look at the class and there's never anybody from Wyoming. So we'd say, all right, well, do we have anybody on the wait list from Wyoming? This is often gender, geography, but it can also be financial. They have to bring in a class that won't require more financial aid than they're budgeting to give out.
Okay.
So they also look at that. How many of the people who committed are we giving financial aid to, and how much financial aid? And do we have any left? And if we don't have any left, then we can't take somebody who isn't full pay.
Oh, okay.
All right.
So there might be an income bias on the wait list.
Could be, yeah. But there are 1,000 other things. What if we don't have enough students who want to study chemistry? Or we don't have enough students from the West Coast? Or we don't have enough students to meet some other institutional priority? That's where they're just going to be plugging in the holes.
Okay. So it sounds like a class is a complex matrix of lots of priorities, and then this wait list is sort of a big pool that they are come to with their shopping list for students.
Right. That's exactly right.
These wait lists are massive. They're
Yes.
more than 1,000 people. I would say in some cases, the wait list might be larger than the actual class. Why is it so big? I've heard, is it because they need a big pool to draw from? Or the other thing I've heard is, are they just being nice and trying to say, you were good enough, but we didn't happen to pick you?
It is definitely true that sometimes they're just being nice. Often they will waitlist someone who is a legacy so that the family doesn't feel like they were just outright rejected.
Okay.
But in many cases, it is because they want to have a huge pool to draw from because they don't know who they're going to need.
Right.
And they sometimes want to find kids to take off the wait list who meet a number of their priorities. So, for example, they come from the East Coast, they want to study chemistry, they're male, and they're full pay. And so you have to have a huge pool to turn to find that exact person. But in general, they waitlist people they'd be happy to have in the class.
Okay.
They don't waitlist anyone they think would fail there or wouldn't fit in or wouldn't be a good representative of their school. You know, they waitlist people who they think will be good students at their college.
So if you made the wait list, that essentially means you are good enough. We just didn't happen to choose you in the initial pass.
Right. You're good enough, but you weren't a 1+.
Okay.
You were a 1 or a 2. Yeah.
You're good enough, but there was somebody a bit better or a lot better.
Right. Or somebody more unique.
Right.
Or somebody who met their institutional priorities better.
Anybody who got waitlisted is going to say, what are my chances of getting in?
Right. Well, let me ask another question that we're asked often. Do you think they rank the people?
Oh, okay.
People always ask, well, what am I? Am I number 1 or am I number 100?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think they rank them? No, of course not. Because they'd be ranking hundreds or thousands of students. And how can they do that? They don't know what they need yet.
Okay.
So no, they don't rank them. And they would never be able to tell you where you fall on the wait list because it's not that kind of a list. It's a pool. It's a wait list pool. Okay. How many do they take? It depends. If they're supposed to bring in 500 students for their incoming class and they have commitments come back from 493, they're going to try and get 7 more kids to commit.
Right.
If they come back with 400 commitments, they're going to need 100 more. And if they come back with 515 commitments, they're going to have to build a couple more rooms and put beds in them for those kids. So it depends. They never know from year to year. They try to predict what their yield will be, but they really can't know from year to year what's going to happen. Here's one other thing that we used to do at Columbia, which I think maybe some other schools might do. They try to predict, again, which students will accept their offer of admission, even from the wait list. And so what we found was that we had a much higher yield from students who lived right in New York City or nearby than we did for, students who lived really far away. So when we were going back to our wait list, we would often give the advantage to students who live nearby.
So why is that? Why do you have that bias? Is it because you've got a hole to fill and you want to get this issue or this hole filled as soon as possible?
Yes. Before that student commits somewhere else,
they know, broadly speaking or statistically, who's more likely to say yes.
Exactly.
Okay. And that's not necessarily something that a student hoping to get off the wait list can control.
Of course not. They have absolutely no control over that.
Let's switch to the all-important topic is, if you're a student on a wait list, what can you control, what can you do, or what should you do to try to
Right.
improve your chances of getting off the wait list and into the college?
Here's 6 things. First, do what they ask. Whatever they say you should do, you do that. If they say you should send a letter of continued interest, send that. And does it have to be fancy and have a lot more information? No, not unless they ask for that.
Okay.
If they ask for another recommendation, send in another recommendation. When you write that letter of intent, though, my advice is to thank them for putting you on the wait list. Tell them you were disappointed not to get in, but thank them for putting you on the wait list and let them know that you understand that the competition must have been fierce and that they had to make very difficult decisions. So to try to put yourself in the shoes of the admissions officer, have some compassion, and be big about it. Take the high road. And just express your hope that there will be room for you in the incoming class.
What about doing more? People applying to Columbia are fairly ambitious, and there might be this idea, oh, if I give them more, it will help. Will the more get read, or will the more create an annoyance or be ignored?
It usually doesn't get read.
Okay.
It's usually ignored. What they do is they sort of put a flag in the file that says that the person has submitted their intent to continue on the wait list.
Okay.
And they've sent in whatever was asked for. And that's all they'll look at when they go back. But if you send an extra 4 recommendations or letters from alumni or whatever, that just annoys them. Okay. So, number 2 was, don't be ridiculous. Don't go overboard. Don't be sending chocolates. Don't be sending cutesy things that you think will be noticed and adorable, because it doesn't matter. If you're not from the West Coast and you want to study chemistry and you're male and you're full pay, you're not the person they're going to pluck. It doesn't matter what you say or do. And in fact, if you do ridiculous things, sometimes they might be turned off.
So I can't help but ask, in your time at Columbia, what are some of the things that showed up?
That people did?
Yeah.
One guy sent us a large floppy lion, which was a stuffed animal made by the Manhattan Toy Company, which was a company he had worked for.
Okay.
And it was an absolutely adorable thing, but what are we going to do with that? And sometimes people will show up at the admissions office and want to talk to us or want to have an interview. And that doesn't look good either. And it never works. Reach out to the rep from your high school. There's a rep from every college or university who's responsible for your high school. Hopefully you already know who that is and you've been in touch with them in the past.
Okay.
But if not, look them up. It's easy to find out who they are, online on the website of the college or by calling the admissions office, and talk to the rep. They're usually the first person who reads your application, and they're sort of your champion in the admissions process.
Okay.
But only reach out to them once and just tell them that you were waitlisted, and maybe send some of the same information that you sent in your letter of intent, just to let them know you're still interested. 4th is to deposit somewhere else, because you won't even find out if you're taken off the wait list until after you have to deposit at another school. So deposit somewhere else where you've been admitted and try and get excited about going there.
When do they start, say at Columbia, when do they start looking at the wait list? Is it in May, after they've already received all of their deposits?
It's after, yes. It's after they've received all of the decisions from the candidates they offered admission to.
Okay.
So that can take a couple weeks for them to sort through
Okay.
and run the statistics.
Students feel they got on the wait list and they're in a hurry to write their letter because their assumption is, I want to be first in line.
Mhm.
Is there any urgency to having that letter written anytime before May 1st?
No,
Okay.
no, because they won't be going back to the wait list that early.
So it sounds like what you're saying is, like, an office will, May 1st, all their deposits will be in. They might take a few weeks, figure out what they have, and then
Right.
sometime maybe in the middle of May, start looking at the pool.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. They try and do it as quickly as they can, and with depending on the sophistication of their system and the clarity of their priorities, they might be able to do that a week after May 1st,
Okay.
but it might take a couple of weeks.
So I'm ready for thing number 5.
Okay. Thing number 5 is if it turns out that you don't come in off the wait list, maybe ask them if there's any possibility for January admission or admission the following September.
Hmm.
Um, a lot more colleges and universities are offering that up front to their waitlisted candidates. For example, a whole slew of students this year were waitlisted at BU and told by BU, you're being waitlisted for September, but you are admitted for September of 2021 next year.
Okay.
If you want that,
Hmm.
click this button. And others, Middlebury and some other schools are known for offering admission in January. They have a pretty well-established January class come in every year. So it doesn't hurt to ask, again, with the attitude that I was admissible, but you just didn't have room for me. Sometimes they really do want some of these students they're waitlisting in their class.
Mm-hmm.
And so they will sometimes come up with creative ways to get them in at some point, somehow, under certain conditions.
Should you always go towards your regional rep, or is that just a one-time deal, and you normally write to whom?
I would go through the rep.
Okay.
Because the rep is the person who's supposed to advocate for you, and they usually know you, or they should know you. So I would go through the rep and feel that out. I wouldn't just write a blank, sort of a blind letter to the director of admissions who doesn't know you at all. And then the last thing is to try to wrap your mind around the whole process and step away for a minute and focus on what you want to study in college, what you want to learn, what you want to experience, what you want to accomplish, and play the waiting game well without thinking about where you go as much as what you'll do and what you'll get out of it once you get there. And sometimes people, when they really think about what they want to get from college and what they want to do and accomplish, they realize that there are other schools besides the one that waitlisted them where they can have a great experience and thrive and come out well educated with skills and knowledge and experiences and confidence that they need to move on in the future. And just really think seriously about accepting one of the offers you've been given. Somebody else accepted you. They want you. They think you'd be a great fit.
Mm-hmm.
Accept that offer and go there.
And if you haven't heard anything, is it worth writing and saying, I'm still available?
If you haven't heard, yes, you should go back to the rep and say, and just send them something saying, I'm still out here. I'm still interested. If accepted, I will definitely commit. And I wouldn't say anything about sending the money right away because that almost sounds like a bribe. But I will definitely accept your offer of admission if I get one. And what a lot of them will do is they will actually call students they're taking off the wait list first before they actually send them an acceptance letter. It's a
Taking
yield.
off meaning putting into the school.
Right.
Okay.
Right. They'll call a student ahead of time and say, "Hey, Chris, we're going to our wait list right now, and it's looking like we will be considering you for admission from the wait list. What's your situation?"
Okay.
And if you say, "Look, I've already committed to Swarthmore. I'm not going to be coming after all," then goodbye. They hang up, and that's that. But what they try and get the student to do is tell them if they would definitely 100% with all certainty accept that offer of admission before they make it.
Is there hope?
Of course, yes. Of course, it depends on every school and university every year, but yes, people do come off the wait list historically. But at one school, they might take 112 students off the wait list one year and 0 the next.
Okay.
So you don't want to say, "Oh, well, there's a lot of hope that you'll get in off the wait list to that school because last year they took 121 people," or whatever. It's never a guarantee. You can't predict anything from year to year.
I, first of all, appreciate your taking the time, but also know you to be a superb private college counselor who can, if people want to learn more about you, they can go to felixeducationalconsulting.com and learn more. And I will say that one thing that impressed me about you from the start is that you don't advertise. And I assume that's because the word of mouth is so good that you do fine that way.
That's right. I don't advertise. All of my clients come by word of mouth. So
you must be doing something right.
I'm doing something right. Yeah.
I hope this video was helpful. If you would like to be notified of future videos, be sure to subscribe to College Mentor Chris. If you have questions or suggestions, please write them in the comments section below. And if you would like more information about college essay workshops, be sure to check out collegeessaymentor.com. Thanks for listening. See you next time.